The Principles of Psychology, 1890, by William James, is one of the foundational works in modern psychology. 1. Consciousness as a stream, explained simply. William James argued that consciousness is not a series of separate ideas or snapshots. Instead, it flows smoothly like a stream, continuous, personal, and ever-changing. He introduced the term stream of consciousness to capture this natural flow. Key characteristics of the stream of consciousness. 1. Consciousness is continuous. Even though our thoughts change from moment to moment, there are no breaks or gaps. Just as a river keeps flowing, so does the mind. You can't step into the same river twice, and you can't enter the same mental state twice. 2. Consciousness is personal. Your consciousness is yours. No one else experiences it. It's tied to a specific self. This helped James reject the idea that the mind could be studied as if it were a machine with identical, universal parts. 3. Consciousness is always changing. Thoughts don't stay still. They shift and evolve continuously. Your mind is never the exact same from one moment to the next, even if the environment stays the same. 4. Consciousness is selective. We don't notice everything. We choose, or our mind chooses, what to focus on. This selectiveness is where attention plays a huge role. James famously said, "My experience is what I agree to attend to." 5. Consciousness has direction and purpose. The flow of thoughts is not random. There's a sense of purpose or goal-directed movement, even when we are daydreaming. Thoughts move toward goals, away from threats, towards satisfying curiosity, along associations, memories, meanings, emotions. Why James described it as a stream? Because it is fluid, not mechanical. It flows from one thought to the next. It has unity even as it changes. It cannot be divided without destroying its natural shape. He wanted to contrast this with older ideas that saw consciousness as made of separate atoms, like building blocks. James argued that experience is holistic and continuous, not chopped into parts. Simple example. You see a cup of coffee. Then your mind flows like this. Coffee yesterday's meeting, a friend who loves coffee, a message you need to send your phone battery, your charger, your next class. This entire movement is the stream. 2. Habit, William James. William James believed habit is one of the most powerful forces shaping human behavior, character, and society. He described habit as the great flywheel of society, meaning it keeps life running smoothly. What James means by habit. Habit is the way repeated actions become automatic, efficient, and easy, stored in the nervous system, so we do them with little conscious effort. Examples: walking, tying your shoelaces, your morning routine, your thinking patterns and reactions. Over time, habits become part of who we are. James's key ideas about habit. 1. Habit is formed by repetition. Repeating an action cuts a groove into the nervous system. The more you repeat it, the deeper the groove becomes. This makes the action easier, faster, more automatic, more stable. This applies to physical habits and mental habits, thought patterns, emotional reactions. 2. Habit conserves energy. James saw habit as nature's way of saving mental effort. When basic actions become automatic, the mind is freed to focus on new challenges, problem solving, creativity. If you had to consciously think through every step of walking, talking, or writing, you'd exhaust yourself immediately. 3. Habits shape character. James famously said, "We are mere bundles of habits." Your habits, good or bad, largely determine your personality, your productivity, your failures, your moral character, your destiny. Change your habits, and you change your life. 4. The best time to form good habits is early. James stressed that youth is the best time to form strong habits because the nervous system is more flexible. But even adults can create new habits through repetition, consistency, deliberate effort. 5. How to build a good habit, James's laws. James offered practical rules that are still used today. A. Start strong. Begin a new habit with serious focus and energy to create momentum. B. Don't allow exceptions. Never skip when forming a new habit. Each break weakens the groove. C. Make good habits convenient. Surround yourself with conditions that make it easy to continue the behavior. D. Replace bad habits immediately. Don't just stop a bad habit. Replace it with another action so your mind has something to follow. Why habit matters in James's psychology. Habit was important because it converts deliberate acts into automatic ones, makes behavior predictable, creates stability in society, allows higher mental functions to develop. James believed effort and willpower are limited. Habits take over most behaviors, so willpower is saved for important challenges. Simple example. Imagine you're learning to drive. At first, you think about everything. You feel tense. Every action requires focus. After months of repetition, many actions become automatic. You can think about other things while driving. The habit is formed. This is exactly how James described habits. Conscious effort becomes unconscious skill. 3. The James-Lange theory of emotion. The James-Lange theory of emotion, proposed independently by William James and Carl Lange, is one of the most influential ideas in the history of psychology. Core idea. We do not cry because we are sad. We are sad because we cry. In other words, emotion is the mind's perception of the body's reactions. How the theory works. Traditional view, before James. Stimulus, emotion, body reaction. Example. You see a snake, you feel fear, your heart races. James-Lange view. Stimulus, body reaction, emotion. Example. You see a snake, your body reacts. Heart races, muscles tense. You feel fear because of those body changes. Step-by-step breakdown. You encounter a situation. E.g., you see a bear. Your body automatically responds. Heartbeat increases. Breathing quickens. Adrenaline is released. Muscles tighten. Your brain interprets these physical changes as an emotion. My heart is racing. My breathing is fast. I must be afraid. Why this was revolutionary. Before James, psychologists believed emotions happen first, body reactions come after. James flipped the model upside down. He insisted that, without bodily changes, emotions would be flat or non-existent. He said, if we fancy some strong emotion and then try to abstract from our consciousness all the feelings of its bodily symptoms, we find we have nothing left. Examples to understand easily. 1. Fear. You don't run because you're afraid. You feel afraid because you're running and your heart is pounding. 2. Sadness. You don't cry because you're sad. You feel sad because you notice yourself crying. 3. Anger. You don't clench your fists because you're angry. You feel angry because you sense your fists clenching and your body heating up. Modern support. Today's science partially supports James. Emotional states are strongly connected to bodily signals, heart rate, hormones, breathing. The brain uses those signals to construct emotions. This is similar to modern theories like embodied cognition, somatic marker hypothesis, Damasio. Criticisms. Some later scientists argued emotions can occur even if bodily feedback is blocked. Different emotions share similar bodily reactions, e.g., fear and excitement both increase heart rate. But the core idea that the body plays a central role in emotion has remained influential. Simple summary. The James-Lange theory of emotion says, an event happens. Your body reacts automatically. Your brain interprets the body reaction as an emotion. 4. Attention, William James. William James considered attention one of the most important processes in the mind. It determines what we notice, what we remember, and what enters our conscious experience. His famous definition. Attention is the taking possession by the mind, in clear and vivid form, of one out of what seem several simultaneously possible objects. In simple terms, attention is the mental spotlight that selects what we focus on. Key ideas in James's theory of attention. 1. Attention is selective. We are surrounded by countless sensations every moment, but we notice only a tiny fraction. Attention filters our experience, allowing us to focus on one task, one thought, one object, one conversation, even in a noisy room. James called this the withdrawal of the mind from some things to deal effectively with others. 2. Attention involves effort. James emphasized the effort of attention. Some attention is effortless. Hearing your name, noticing something loud or bright, responding to danger. But voluntary attention, focusing on what you choose or need to focus on, requires mental energy and willpower. Examples: studying, reading a dry textbook, completing a difficult task, ignoring distractions. This kind of attention uses up cognitive resources. 3. Types of attention. James described 2 major kinds. A. Involuntary attention, reflexive, automatic, triggered by strong stimuli, requires no effort. Example: turning when someone screams. B. Voluntary attention, active, controlled by will, requires effort, directed by goals or intentions. Example: forcing yourself to study or work when tired. 4. Attention determines experience. James believed, "My experience is what I agree to attend to." What you pay attention to becomes your reality. If you focus on problems, you feel stressed. Opportunities, you feel motivated. Dangers, you feel anxious. Blessings, you feel grateful. Attention shapes thought, emotion, memory, and behavior. 5. Attention can be trained. James insisted that attention is a trainable mental skill. Through practice, discipline, habituation, reducing distractions, you can strengthen your ability to focus, just like strengthening a muscle. Modern psychology confirms this idea, e.g., mindfulness, meditation, focus training. Examples to understand easily. Example 1. The classroom. A student hears all kinds of sounds, fans, footsteps, papers, but only concentrates on the teacher's voice. That is selective attention. Example 2. Studying. When you decide to study, you must hold your mind on the book, resisting temptations like your phone or wandering thoughts. This is the effort of attention. Example 3. Driving. At first, new drivers must pay deliberate attention to everything. With practice, habits take over, and attention is freed for more important cues. Why attention matters in James's psychology. For James, attention is the key to learning, memory, perception, problem-solving, willpower, success, personal growth. Without attention, experience becomes chaotic and we cannot act effectively. 5. The self, material, social, spiritual. William James believed the self is not one single thing. Instead, it is a collection of different aspects of our experience. He divided the self into 3 major components: material self, social self, spiritual self. Together, they make up your full personal identity. 1. Material self. The material self includes everything that belongs to you physically. What includes? Your body, the core of the material self. Your clothing, your home, your possessions, your family, because you feel ownership/protection toward them. Key idea: the things you own become extensions of your identity. For example, people feel hurt when they lose money or property because it feels like part of the self. We take pride in our appearance, clothes, and physical space. James believed the body is the innermost part of the material self. Everything else is more external. 2. Social self. The social self refers to how you appear to other people. James argued that you have many social selves, not just one. Why? Because you show different versions of yourself to parents, friends, co-workers, strangers, authority figures. Each relationship calls out a different side of your personality. Examples: the polite version of you with elders, the fun version with friends, the serious version at work. Each of these is a separate social self. Important point: a man has as many social selves as there are individuals who recognize him. Your identity changes depending on who is watching. 3. Spiritual self. The spiritual self is the inner, subjective, essential part of you. It includes your inner thoughts, your values, your conscience, your morals, your personal beliefs, your sense of purpose, your will, your identity as a thinker and feeler. This is the core of your personality, the part you consider your true self. Key characteristics. It is not physical. It does not depend on social approval. It relates to your sense of meaning and inner life. It feels deep, personal, and continuous over time. James linked the spiritual self to introspection, the awareness you have of your own mind. How these three selves work together. Your material self shapes your comfort, security, and physical identity. Your social selves shape your behavior with others and your emotional responses to relationships. Your spiritual self shapes your inner development, moral choices, and personal growth. You shift between these selves every day, but together they create your full psychological identity. Why this theory was important. It broke away from the idea of a single, fixed self. It helps psychologists understand identity as dynamic, complex, and context-dependent. It influenced modern theories of personality, social psychology, and self-concept. Simple example to tie it all together. Imagine you're walking into a room. Material self. You adjust your clothes, feel your body, notice your phone. This is your physical identity. Social self. You see friends, coworkers, or strangers and automatically shift into the appropriate behavior. Spiritual self. You silently reflect, judge, decide, and feel. Your inner self guides your actions. All three selves work together every moment. 6. Will and volition. For William James, will is not some mysterious force. It is a mental process connected to attention, effort, and decision-making. He defines will as the ability to hold an idea in mind long enough to act on it. In other words, will is the power to focus and follow through. Key ideas in James's theory of will. 1. Will equals effort of attention. James believed that the core of willpower is the effort of attention. This means choosing what to pay attention to, holding attention on the chosen idea, ignoring distractions, and competing impulses. To James, the struggle to keep your mind on the right thing is the exercise of will. 2. Volition is the process of choosing and acting. Volition, the act of willing, involves. Idea of an action appears in the mind. You focus on that idea. You suppress competing desires. You carry out the action. Example, you want to study, you focus on that desire, you resist your phone, you open the book. That is volition. 3. Genuine will happens when we resist temptation. James said true willpower is only visible when there's a conflict. If you want to study and feel motivated, that requires little will. If you want to study but feel tired, bored, or distracted, and you still do it, that is willpower. Will appears in moments of struggle, temptation, fatigue, pain, fear, laziness. 4. Two kinds of will according to James. James distinguished between A. Explosive will. Strong impulses push you into action. You act without much resistance. Emotion drives behavior. Not true willpower, more like instinct or passion. B. Obstructed or effortful will. You face internal resistance. You make a conscious effort to act. You overcome opposing impulses. This second type is what James considered real will. 5. Will simplifies through habit. James linked habit and will. At first, will must work hard to force a new behavior. After repetition, the behavior becomes a habit. Then it requires little or no will at all. This connects to James's idea that forming good habits makes life easier because it frees willpower for bigger challenges. 6. The will is limited. James believed we have a limited supply of mental energy. Willpower gets tired. We cannot make effort endlessly. Overusing will lead to exhaustion and failure. This idea anticipates modern ego depletion theory, though that theory is debated today. 7. The fiat of the will. Fiat means the moment when the decision becomes action. James said every voluntary act passes through thinking about doing it, struggling with alternatives. The final fiat, let it be done. This final act is simple but powerful. Practical example, easy to understand. Imagine you want to wake up early tomorrow. At night, the idea to wake early appears, volition begins. In the morning, you feel sleepy, opposing impulse. You focus on your goal, effort of attention. You suppress the desire to stay in bed. You get up, the fiat of the will. This whole process, from thought focus resisting action, is will in James's theory. Why will matters in James's psychology? Will is essential for self-control. It directs attention. It creates habits. It shapes character. It allows moral and personal growth. It enables freedom of choice. To James, improving your will improves your entire life. 7. James's ideas on free will. William James did not claim he could prove free will scientifically. Instead, he approached it pragmatically, focusing on why believing in free will matters for human life. His basic position: we should believe in free will because the belief itself gives us power, motivation, and moral responsibility. He called this approach the will to believe. Key points in James's view of free will. 1. We cannot scientifically prove free will. James admitted, science cannot show we are completely free, nor can science prove we are completely determined. The evidence is inconclusive. He believed the question is not purely scientific, but philosophical and practical. 2. Free will is necessary for a moral life. James argued that without free will, responsibility collapses, moral effort collapses, praise, blame, regret, and ambition become meaningless. No one truly tries to improve. He famously said, "My first act of free will shall be to believe in free will." He chose to believe in freedom because it leads to effort, growth, hope, self-improvement, accountability. 3. Free will is experienced in the effort of attention. James linked free will to his psychological ideas. When you focus attention on one idea and ignore others, when you resist temptation, when you push yourself to do what is hard, these actions feel like free choices. For James, the conscious effort of attention is where we experience freedom. 4. Indeterminism versus determinism. James favored indeterminism. Determinism: everything is fixed by past causes. Nothing could be otherwise. Indeterminism: some decisions are genuinely open. Things could be otherwise. James said indeterminism: expand possibilities, makes life meaningful, allows real choice, supports moral responsibility. He said the universe is not a closed machine, but a place where choice matters. 5. Freedom is not randomness. James rejected the idea that free will means acting randomly. For him, genuine choices involve deliberation, reflection, and effort. Free will is guided by values, desires, and the spiritual self. Thus, freedom equals purposeful choice, not chaos. 6. Believing in free will strengthens the self. James connected free will to the spiritual self. Your inner sense of values, meaning, purpose, responsibility is strengthened when you believe your choices matter. Free will, in James's view, is essential to forming character, achieving goals, overcoming weaknesses, becoming better over time. Simple example to understand James's view. Imagine you are addicted to your phone and want to study more. Determinism says, you cannot change, your habits control you. James's idea says, because you believe you can change, you put in effort, you focus attention, you resist impulses, you build new habits, you actually become a more disciplined person. Your belief in freedom creates freedom through effort. James's free will in one sentence. Free will is the belief and practice that our choices matter, and through effort we can shape who we become. Why this was revolutionary? It links psychology, habit, attention, will, to philosophy, freedom, morality. It gave a practical, life-focused justification for believing in free will. It influenced later thinkers in psychology, philosophy, and even self-help movements. 8. Associationism, William James. Associationism is the idea that mental processes, especially thinking, remembering, and learning, work by forming connections, associations, between ideas. William James accepted the basic principles of associationism, but he expanded and corrected it in important ways. Traditional associationism before James. Earlier psychologists like Locke, Hume, and the British empiricists believed the mind is built from simple ideas. These ideas combine through laws of association. Thinking is essentially one idea triggering another. They proposed three classic laws of association. Contiguity, ideas that occur together get linked. Similarity, similar ideas trigger each other. Contrast, opposite ideas bring each other to mind. Example, thinking of fire may bring heat, danger, warmth, or cold. Contrast. What James added and corrected. James agreed that associations are essential, but he argued, association alone cannot explain the richness of thought. There must be an active thinker guiding the process. This was a major improvement over older mechanistic views of the mind. Here are James's key contributions. 1. Association is not mechanical. It is guided by interests. James argued the mind is not a passive machine where ideas just bump into each other. Instead, attention, interests, goals, feelings, and personal relevance all influence which associations occur. Example, a hungry person thinks of food-related associations more quickly than someone who is full. 2. Associations follow meaning, not just surface links. James believed humans form associations based on purpose, meaning, context, logic, value, not just simple similarity or closeness in time. This was a step toward modern cognitive psychology, where meaning guides thought. 3. Stream of consciousness shapes associations. Because consciousness flows like a stream, associations move in continuous directions. Follow the path of least resistance. Shift based on emotion and attention. Example, you think of money. This leads to work, then boss, then pressure, then vacation, then beach. This flow reflects your emotional state and current concerns, not just mechanical rules. 4. Memory depends on strength of associations. James agreed with associationists that memory is built from connected ideas. But he added, répétition strengthène associations. Attention strengthène associations. Émotion strengthène associations. Today's neuroscience supports this. Emotional and repeated experiences create stronger neural pathways. 5. James introduced the idea of the self as the thinker. Traditional associationism treated the mind like a machine. James insisted, thinking requires a knower, a self, who chooses what to focus on. Associations don't just happen. The self organizes, selects, and directs them. This links associationism to attention, will, purpose, personality. 6. Associationism explains the flow of thought. James said association rules help explain how thoughts follow each other, how daydreaming works, how we remember things, how habits of thinking are formed, how meaning expands from one idea to another. But these laws operate within the larger structure of the self and its goals. Simple examples to understand James's view. Example 1. Studying psychology. Read the word memory, you think of association, James' exam study schedule. Example 2. Seeing a friend. See your friend in town, remember high school, remember a teacher, remember a funny incident, start laughing. Example 3. Listening to music. A song reminds you of a person, then of a place, then of a time in your life. These examples show association, guided by emotion, meaning, and personal relevance, not just similarity and contiguity. Summary of James's contribution to associationism. William James kept the basic idea that ideas connect, but he modernized it. Association is shaped by attention and will, not automatic. Associations follow meaning, not just physical similarity. Emotion and interest influence which ideas arise. The self actively directs the flow of thought. Associationism is part of the stream of consciousness, not a mechanical process. This made the theory more realistic, flexible, and compatible with modern psychology. It will be very much appreciated if you can subscribe. Let's grow together and celebrate together. We rise by lifting others.